Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions, where we are critical, not cynical, of the music we listen to. I'm your host, Bryan, and we're going to continue on with this week's theme of music inspired by checking out the song Vicarious Redemption by Cult of Luna, that is based off of or inspired by the 1927 film, I believe, Metropolis. So, we're looking at a 19-minute track. Pause the video, grab a snack, get some water, and get comfy because we're going to be here a while. Let's see what Cult of Luna is bringing to the table today. Very atmospheric, but not. It's empty. It's bleak in a way, although it might be the album art informing me of that. It's isolating, though. There's interestingly a lot of electronica so far, right? I mean, I know these guys are masters with pedals. This could very well just be a guitar doing this wavy, washy thing. It's very quiet though. It's very cold. You notice there's almost no warm low end sounds. Everything is very bright and cold. Even that tone right there, that should feel ominous, almost just feels. I don't know. It's like an indifference to it. Like we should find it monstrous, but we don't, because it doesn't even care about us. That's what that tone makes me feel. That's fun, but again, bringing in a metallic edge, very cold. The bass left hand finally giving us a bit of a warmer tone, but even it is not. There's something about it. So we're in 4/4, but I mean, we've been, what, 6 minutes into this track already with no real strong sense of time or rhythm. Yeah, this is interesting side of Cult of Luna. This is more of what I was expecting from them. Like an alarm going off. It's always one-offs. I expect those atmospheric ideas of the alarm last time and like the siren scream this time. I I expect them to continue with the music. Yeah, I didn't bring this up last time. I forgot. I love the drum idea here. Just constant toms, especially given their width, where the snare hits in the middle. Yeah, just that panning idea right there works very well. Really interesting idea here where the chord never changes on the downbeat of the next bar, it's just prior. Makes it feel just out of sync. Brings me back to the opening with the electronica. I love how that sound diminished and expanded coming into this idea. Almost like the guitar exploded out of that voice. Cult of Luna, layers, wall of sound, this is what I'm expecting. I love the bass. The bass is a massive sound. It's not often doing anything really wild, but it's just a monstrous element that sits underneath the bands. second use of tremolo picking so far to create a texture. I really feel like this section has a lot of sub bass to it that my hardware just cannot keep up with. I really feel that's one of those moments where you're supposed to feel the bass in your body. It's wild how even the melodic parts of the song end up feeling like texture. If nothing else than due to repetition, but also because of the voicings that they use. I do like the quasi-call and response going on there that's being achieved through the production on the vocals. And of course, it ends on a shrill, higher pitched note. I'm just. I have to preface, I am in awe of what Cult of Luna does in general. This is like my fifth song of theirs I think I've checked out. Somewhere in that area. I might be overestimating a little. They continuously bounce off of me though. I haven't, like I said, I have appreciation for the craft and what they do, but it rarely ever hits me or even grabs me. Like I can see the intent to several of these sections here where I'm supposed to feel a specific feeling, not necessarily an emotion, because I think some of the sections here are supposed to evoke um, just grandiose design, just largeness, monstrosity, just feeling small, right, against enormous ideas or things or structures or something. Um, I can see where the decisions have come to lead to this, but I don't ever feel that. And I don't know if it's because I've only listened to Cult of Luna in this environment, lights and cameras, and intently listening to everything because I know that I'm going to be drilled on it when I'm done listening. I need to provide an analysis. I don't know if you guys have a specific level that you expect my breakdowns to be at, but I certainly hold myself up to a specific level, and I feel like I let you guys down if I don't really dig into at least some nitty gritty of a track. So I'm intently listening. And while I'm listening, I know I'm supposed to be feeling this song, but I don't quite feel I have that luxury in this setting. So, like I said, maybe it's just because I haven't listened to Cult of Luna out on my own, on my personal time yet. Maybe it'll click with me then. I did close my eyes a few times in here, though, trying to connect with it just on a casual level, and it never gets there. It's like it's locked, and I have a key. I have a few keys and I try them, and it almost feels like I've got it on one of them. But one of the tumblers doesn't click. So the key is almost the one I need. It's that little piece of information still that I'm missing to make a perfect key to unlock this disconnect that I have. But what I end up walking away with this track from, and I'm pretty sure I've said this about others of theirs, is really great soundtrack music. And that's probably highly blasphemous to Cult of Luna fans. I understand you guys have told me that this type of music is something you just dark room, headphones on, or turn on your speakers like max volume, and just close your eyes and become one with the music to add visual component to that or a spoken component, imagining that there's a story that's told over this outside of the lyrics, of course, like a poem or even a short story. Like I said, putting a film in front of this is missing the point of the track, but when I'm listening to this, I can't help but fill in visual components. I see a movie with this, and through that, it combined with the fact that there's very rarely a lead element to take the spotlight, it usually is texture and atmosphere, and that's it. Without having that hook that sits on top of everything, my brain goes and fills in visuals or sometimes melodic ideas. I would love, in fact, I might do this now, even if just for my own idea, maybe not this track because it's, or maybe an excerpt of it, popping it in my workstation and seeing what I can put on top of it that I might enjoy better. Or that I might just enjoy. Putting a melody line on top and see if it works. Um, and by no means would I say that it improves it, but it would change it in a way that I might enjoy more on my own. Now, with that said, let's dive into some analysis. Let's see what's going on here. There's a few points I want to hit on, given it is a 20-minute track almost. I'm not going to be able to touch on too much nitty gritty, too much of the details. This is going to be more of an overarching idea of concepts that were repeatedly used and how they were utilized to craft specific themes that I picked up, more so than digging into specific riffs and talking about what they're doing in particular, because honestly, 20 minutes is a lot of music to remember. The first thing I want to touch on, why is my eye so itchy? The first thing I want to touch on is the electronic side. We've watched a couple of Cult of Luna live shows, and the first thing that blows me away is that sometimes, maybe all the time, they have two drummers, which is just super cool. I wish I had remembered that going into this because I don't remember listening specifically for the drums, but I don't remember any moments where it felt like there was two kits required, where it felt like there were 5+ limbs being utilized. Um, yeah, so maybe I just missed that because I wasn't paying attention to it, or maybe this just isn't a song that features that because it's going to tie into the themes, but having both drummers play the exact same thing from start to finish with a rare change actually fits in with a lot of what I think this song is doing. But the other thing that stands out to me is that they have a synth dude. Uh, it I don't remember if they're like a DJ setup like the dude from Slipknot, or if it's like a keyboard with just like lots of dials and knobs and patch cables and stuff like that. I don't remember, but I remember they do have an electronic person. But when I think of Cult of Luna, I do not think of electronica music. Um, in fact, I really don't think of electronica sounds at all. I don't think of digital sounds. It's interesting to me that, at least in the opening 6 minutes before we hit the first set of lyrics, and then dipping out for another 6 minutes, it felt like, um, that at least in the first minute or 2 minutes of it, we have primarily an electronic crafted atmosphere. We don't have guitars yet. I don't think, like I mentioned, they are masters at making guitar sounds, pedals, and stuff like that. But to me, it sounds like a sample that's being used, or something, a sound from a sound library, being tweaked, modified in real time. Lots of things going on. I mean, it could also be modulated, automated. That's the word I want. But I've also seen the dude work, and the dude's like knobs and keys like all the time. Like, I'm sure it's done in real time. The dude's a beast on this kind of stuff. But yeah. Now, again, I've only heard a small sample of Cult of Luna tracks, but I very rarely hear electronic sounds at all. So much so to the point that I don't really associate them with the band, even though I know there is a dedicated player for this type of sounds. And yet, the entire opening of this track, 120 seconds at least, is dedicated entirely to electronic sounds. To me, that stands out. And again, I have a small view of who they are. It could be that I've just gotten their primarily rock metal oriented sounds, and I just haven't had anything like this, and this is actually their primary mode. But to me, this stands out in my small limited listening of them, that there's so much emphasis put on this. I have to think that it means something, because everything Cult of Luna does means something, even if I don't get it, which happens often. But they seem to be a band that puts intentionality into every decision, even if it's just holding like a C on a keyboard for 24 bars. There's a reason they did that, not a musical one. I don't think they make too many musical reasons. There's a thematic reason for it. This is a very theatrical band. The decisions are always about what is the music saying, and how can we make it say what we want it to say. So I don't know where I'm going with that yet, but it is something I picked up on, and I continue to hear electronic sounds throughout this track, including several sections further into the song where it was either highlighted or isolated yet again, with the rest of the instruments either dropping out or just becoming quiet enough that the atmospheric electronic stuff is given prominence again. And this leads into the tone, timbre of the track. That's weird. Timbre we typically speak about as for instruments. An instrument has a timbre, and that's the way it sounds. It's its specific buzziness, it's brightness, it's darkness, it's coldness, it's warmth, it's everything. When you talk about guitar tone, right? And you're saying, Dave Mustaine's guitar tone is totally different than uh, someone else's. You're talking about the timbre of the instrument. Now, granted, when it comes to this, these are modified timbres. The core, but even when you talk about the core instrument, like a Stratocaster, and a something else, right? Those two instruments have different feelings to them. They sound differently, even though they're both very much guitars. That's timbre. It's the differences between instruments, whether it's a big difference like a trumpet versus a flute, or small differences like a uh, brass trumpet versus a silver trumpet. It's the minor things, or the big things. But you don't really talk about the timbre of a song because it's made up of timbres. But I want to present this idea real quick. I said this a few times. I wonder if anybody else felt this. The song is cold. There are very few warm sounds going on in here. There's very few sounds that have width to them, in a sense of, no, not width, because we do have some pretty big guitar tones for the monolithic sections. Earthiness. Let's go with that. There's very few earthy tones. I think the only one that really gives me any sort of warm, lower end power is the bass guitar, and even that, I said, kind of has a cold edge to it. It is the warmest by contrast. It is quite warmer than everything else, but when I think of it compared to like a jazz bass tone or something we would hear in hard rock or a prog jazz tone, it's just, it's very cold. I wish I could explain this better. It's one of those things that you have to show people. If I play you a silver trumpet and a bronze trumpet or a brass trumpet, you'll hear the darkness versus the brightness, the colder and the warmer tones. But it's really difficult to portray that into words. But this song lacks warmth. It does appear time to time, but it's so small. Or I should say, it comes about in small amounts that the song ends up just feeling very metallic at points, if that makes sense too. Because now I'm talking about a sound being metal versus the opposite of fleshy, earthy, maybe? I don't know. This is a very different sound for Cult of Luna, though, because it tends to resonate in a higher, darker pitch, timbre. I think I'm just going to move on because I don't have the vocabulary to talk about this, and I'm just going in circles now. But I want to reiterate this idea that there's something very uncaring in the sound of this song from start to finish. It's lacking emotional depth as far as, I don't know. I don't know. If I can figure out a way to explain this, either later in the video or even after, I will make a post about it. I promise. Maybe I will make a special video to like showcase bright and dark tones and cold and warm tones, and maybe that'll help with this section. But I guess right now, if you hear it, if you have that type of experience with timbre and instrument voicings, I hope you get it. But if you don't, I have no way to help you understand it at this point. But the idea is that the song feels very uncaring to me. It feels very disinterested in me as a listener as a whole. Um, and that's where all of that feeling comes from. I'm going to bring this back up in the theme later, but I needed to talk about this even if I can't talk about it. The other thing that stands out to me is Cult of Luna's MO. We're talking about layers, we're talking about repetition, and we're talking about width. There's nothing new happening here in those ways, and as far as I'm concerned, they are being utilized in very typical fashion. But what's interesting is that they showcase different ideas to me. There is certainly a point later in the track when the guitars come in full with the bass and the drums, and we have this atmospheric stuff going on in the background, and there's some melody lines, like 2 bar licks, riffs going on, repeating them over and over and over, and it's just swelling. The song is getting very large and very big, but again, it doesn't feel like it's trying to scare me. Again, I feel so invisible to the song itself. I don't know how relatable this is going to be for a lot of people. I live next to a pretty major city, tons of skyscrapers. Um, and when you're walking down the street and you look up and it just keeps going. And I feel so small in this city. I've also been to New York City proper. Um, and I've had the same experience there, but to a different degree. I don't know if it's because the skyscrapers are taller. I don't know if it's the color of the buildings. I don't know if it's perceived difference in material. I kind of get like an earthy brick kind of feeling, and maybe that's because the first levels of a lot of these buildings tend to have like a brick exterior. Maybe that like colors everything for this city near me. Um, but looking at the skyscrapers in New York City, it's well, even here, it's just this. It's like staring at a giant, right? A colossus, or a cyclops, or whatever you want to think about, and being in utter fear of being so small to them, and then having them just step over you and keep on walking. You are but an ant to them. You are totally in fear for your life. You believe that they are a predator to you in essence, that they can squash you in just a step, and they can. But because of that, you're nothing. That's what this section of the track reminds me of. It is huge, it is massive, it is a very large, powerful part of the song, but a it's not an oppressive weight like I've talked about with Cult of Luna before with their wall of sound sections that feel oppressive to me. This is not a section of a song that wants to do me harm or wishes to control or suppress me in any way. It's not putting any stress or attention on me at all, in fact. It is just existing. It is a very different vibe than I've picked up from Cult of Luna before. And in fact, a lot of post rock or post metal, I always get the two confused, ideas. Any of this wall of sound, overbearing weight kind of stuff, it all feels like it crushes me or attempts to sonically just put pressure onto me. And this doesn't. This song just exists. It almost feels like it doesn't care if I hear it or not. And it sort of baffles me because of that. In fact, it makes me want to listen to it more. I don't think I've listened to a song that is so uncaring. But a lot of that comes from not just the weight and width and power that they typically put into their music, but the timbre of the instruments. I'm telling you, it changes everything. You put this side by what was that track we listened to? It was a live, I think it was a live video. Yeah, I don't know. It might have been In Awe of, but it could also have been I the Weapon, which is interesting. Both of them came off this album. I think. Yep, I the Weapon is one track before this one, and In Awe of is track 8, all from Vertical from 2013. Oh, Vertical. Let me show y'all something. This is the album art. It is very bleak. White and black, stark. A little bit of gray in here, but primarily monochrome. For the longest time, I just saw random lines, but the more I look about it and think about the title Vertical, skyscrapers. I don't know. Maybe no connection at all. But this song makes me feel like how I feel in a city. Is there anything else I wanted to touch on? I think everything else is just personal stuff I'm not too keen on, like the length. Very long song that goes through a lot of repetition. And I think the repetition's the point because it makes these things more monolithic. These sections that I just want to get past continue to exist for longer than I would like them to. They continue to unknowingly impose their presence upon me. They don't even know I exist, and they still let me know that they exist. Also, the vocals, as I've stated before, probably I don't know about this band, but in general, I just like more dynamic qualities to my vocal work. Which is probably why I like Cult of Luna when they work with Julie Christmas, because she has a lot of dynamic qualities to her vocal work. Um, oh, one more thing. This is another long video. Yesterday's was pretty long too. I mean, it makes sense. This is a 20-minute song. I want to talk about melodic texture. So many things in this song, as is typical for Cult of Luna, is for atmosphere or texture. Like I said earlier, they're very thematic bands. Every decision is designed to craft the atmosphere they're going for. That everything down to chord progression, note choice, timbre choice, and and how they play things. For instance, we have a few cases in here where we get the tremolo picking. Just playing as fast as they can to create that constant attack and utilize whatever effects they have on their guitar to create that wall of sound. We also have a lot of suspended notes in here. There are very few moments where we have movement and momentum of notes. A lot of our lines are just whole notes and half notes, just taking up space, just existing, these notes just being. Uh, Going back with my idea of the skyscrapers. What's interesting though is there are a couple of riffs with note changes that actually move more often than once a bar. Or, yeah, note changes. They change more often once a bar. The first time they come around, I'm kind of usually, yeah, okay, we got some melody in here. Let's see where this goes. But they tend to stick around for 30, 60 bars at a time and eventually bleed into the background. They just become noise again. I don't know how to tie that back into any themes, but I do find it interesting. Melody is usually what's put into the spotlight. It's the hook, it's the thing you're going to be humming later. I don't feel that here in their most melodic aspects. It starts out as something that's kind of catchy and something I could hum if I could remember it, but it really doesn't take long for it to drift into the background and just become another texture. And there are very few bands, in fact, I can't think of a single time this has come up before in the channel, where I have felt melody lines not being melodic, just being another texture, just another background sound. It's interesting. I don't know where to place that. I think compositionally that would be pretty difficult. I want to put it on the production side, but I can't discount the repetitions. The repetitions help aid in this phenomenon either. I think we're going to hit some lyrics. Yeah, let's hit some lyrics. You know, I was laughing about this last week. I think it was with the Eric Torino reaction. How it was a 3-minute song with a massive list of lyrics, and I had brought up a little joke about metal songs being like 10 minutes long and having, a fifth of what Eric put into his relatively short track, and just the massive difference there between folk and pop versus rock and metal. We have a 19-minute song, and it's, I don't know, we're looking at like 15 lines tops. Honestly, I could put this into 2 stanzas. Over paralyzed pressure above structural obstructions, celestial rain denied, our worlds collide. Loathing parallel perceptions, renouncing vicarious redemption, avoid the fall from grace, a view replaced. Silence consumed us, the bloodline. I don't know what's got. I don't know what they got here. It's very pleasing, very aesthetically pleasing. Between the really nice way that everything flows, the rhythmic structure, the rhyming structure, the repeated syllabic phrases, and even the alliteration. We have the paralyzed pressure and the parallel perceptions. Everything just sort of flows. There's a really strong flow to this, which I didn't pick up at all. It works really well in speech, but I feel like a lot of this elegance is lost when it's done through the screams. I don't know. I'd have to listen to it with the lyrics in front of me so I can put the two together, because I don't know if I'd hear the syllables even if I was listening specifically for them. But having the words themselves in front of me, I think I could pick up on. But I think the abrasiveness of the delivery mixed with the very percussive element and textural component of the vocals removes a little bit of the elegance and beauty of the words themselves, which kind of goes along with what I was saying. I mean, I know Code of Luna doesn't do clean vocals. Maybe they do, I've just never heard them. But the idea of taking something that should be beautiful and making it cold and calculating is a topic I've brought up all throughout this video. There's elements of this song that I feel, if handled a different way, different timbres, or just getting rid of the distortion, adding a little bit of melody, there could be some really beautiful moments here, but instead we end up with this very calculating song. And I think having the lyrics be like this, but delivered as it is, falls in line with that. But I have no idea what this is saying so far. And it says, abhor the absolute, created and thrown under. Trying to recover the flesh, casting spells upon swines, reject reviled wisdom, no powers are divine. Moving mountains, splitting seas, false hope never beckoned me. No gods, no masters, no rulers, and no kings. What you reject, I bring. Yeah, I've got no idea. Oh, I don't remember if I mentioned this. Oh, I did mention it. I completely forgot about it, diving into, how I felt about the song, but it's supposed to be related to or inspired by the 1927 film Metropolis, which, I don't know, it's not quite as clear what that relationship is, at least not as clear as yesterday's, not Leviathan. What was that track called? Oh, yeah, Hearts Alive. That was very much about Moby Dick. It's very clearly stated in the song, and in the atmosphere and all that. I don't think you could miss it if you knew what you were looking for. But I mean, other than just skyscrapers and a very well, there's the robots too, and the class divide. I mean, there's not much of a looking out for others. There is a bit of an insignificance to each other's lives in there. I mean, some of the themes are kind of resonating through the music, but I'm really having to grab at metaphorical parallels. Uh, so I don't know. I think I'm going to wrap this up because I explained my experience with the song, but I don't think I've really done much to explain the song. It does seem to slip right through my grip. And I wish I could connect with it just a little more than I did, but those are my thoughts. Cult of Luna's Vicarious Redemption. This is where you come in. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know if you enjoyed this or not. Anything you'd like to add on to what I said. If you have your own interpretation or experience, please let me know. I'm always welcoming other perspectives, and especially in cases like this, I actively seek out other perspectives because mine is a little lacking here. I can't deny that I had an experience, but it doesn't really explain too much of what I listened to. When you're done commenting, you can head into the description box, find a link for Linktree, which takes you to this menu right here. It has links for everything related to the channel, including a variety of ways to support me and to find any of the social circles that surround the channel, such as Twitter and Discord. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. All right, we have a special selection as well today. If that doesn't interest you, though, I'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC. As usual, we'll continue on with this week's theme and check out another special selection. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.